Welcome to the 2026 Republican primary debate for St. Charles County Executive. I'm Mark Maxwell. Your three candidates: Steve Ellman, the county executive for the last 19 years, Bill Eigel, a former state senator who finished second in the 2024 race for governor, and Jason Law, a longtime police officer and former mayor of Lake St. Louis. The primary, August 4. And in this county, it's the whole ball game. For the next half hour, across 4 rounds, my job is to ask real questions and to notice when they don't get a clear answer. Your job is easier and maybe harder at times. Just watch. Watch who's specific, who's vague, who owns the hard fact, and who tries to slide past it. The debate won't tell you everything, but it tells you something a commercial never will. Vote however you want. The point of this is to make each of them earn it. Gentlemen, you've each earned important titles in your career, but tonight you're all on the same stage, on equal footing, running for the same job. So we're going to use your last names for all of this. Let's get started. Mr. Ellman, let me read you what a congressman from your own party, Bob Onder, has said about this race. Quote, animus against another person is a terrible reason to seek a 6th term. And, quote, if keeping another candidate out of office is your reason for running, your best option is probably retirement. Now, you've told our viewers that you got back in this race because you were the only one who could beat Bill Eigel. So is Congressman Onder describing you accurately? And if animus is not your motive, then I wonder if you can make the case. What will you do in the 6th term that your first 5 didn't allow?
Well, I think the most important thing to say about that is we will continue to do some of the things we have started. And among the things that we are working on right now is for the last, 3 years, the county executives in Jefferson, Franklin, St. Charles, and St. Louis County, we've worked together to get funding for a regional police training facility, which Jason will know a lot about as well. That has been a real challenge because to do something like that, it's not a matter of getting a majority. It's a matter of taking 4 people and 4 county councils and getting them to agree on something. Mm-hmm. That is a very difficult thing to do. And I would point to my history of being able to work with other people. I'm able to get along with Republicans, Democrats, nonpartisan people, mayors, the people on the State Highway Commission.
Negotiation and compromise.
Yeah. So
I hear you.
What I will promise to do is the sort of things we have done. We've worked together with mayors to get additional funding for roads. We've worked with the Highway Commission to get the roads built.
I appreciate that answer. Mr. Eigel, I'm going to put it to you. Your opponent says that your disruptive style of politics is a threat to the system of self-government we have today. That's his line. I'm going to set that one aside for now. Here's mine. Governing is often boring, unglamorous. It's budgets, it's potholes, it's 911 calls, it's permits, all things that have to get answered on time, customer service to your constituents. So put that point to our viewers. Point to the specific thing in your record that proves you can actually run the government, not just shake it around.
Sure. Well, and by the way, I think it's very ironic to hear from my opponent that he can get along with a bunch of people, but the whole reason he's running in this race is because he has a personal problem with one of his opponents. That's me. I think that's very misleading and very dishonest on his behalf. But I'll tell you what, whether a success in government, I got past one of the largest single-year tax cuts in state history with House Bill 2540. But really, one of the reasons that I would offer that I have a resume unlike my opponents is I'm the only one with small business ownership experience up there. I'm the only one that's actually signed the front of a check and run a small business and actually been out there creating the jobs that my other 2 opponents seem to talk about all the time. So the 2 big issues in St. Charles County overwhelmingly are issues that I contrast greatly with the current county executive. One is taxation. The county government has grown by almost 400% since 2009 when our current county executive came into office. 400%. That's way above growth. That's way above inflation. And instead of looking for ways to reduce the property tax burden, which is the #1 issue in St. Charles County, he's been growing government. The other issue, of course, is apartments. We've had more than 11,000 apartments being built in St. Charles County, while the highest elected office holder in St. Charles County, that is County Executive Steve Ellman, has not only done nothing to stop it, but when he had the few opportunities to approve direct new apartment complexes, he did so.
And time permitting, we're going to get to that. I'm going to give you a time to get to that in a minute.
Contract.
Mr. Law, let me get right to you. There is a real question of experience tonight, and you deserve a chance to answer it directly and head on. This county has a habit of choosing the seasoned hand. You're asking voters to break that habit. Your opponents have roughly 6 decades of governing between them. Senate, judgeship, mayors, running a mayor's office, county executive. You've got 27 years wearing a badge and a partial term as a small city mayor. A county executive doesn't fight crime in the street. He passes budgets in a boardroom. He negotiates with a council. He runs a bureaucracy, an administration. So make the case with some specifics. What is it in your record that proves you can run a $600 million budget in a county and not just police one?
Well, I am in executive leadership for the police department, and I'm responsible for the lives of 1 million people day in and day out. But as a part-time mayor in the city of Lake St. Louis, we did pass legislation. I passed the first apartment moratorium in 2022, and not another proposal was passed since then. I also helped the candidate in Dardenne Prairie get elected, and he put in a moratorium in. Then I helped candidates in O'Fallon, and they're voting on a moratorium tonight. So the leadership, it takes bold leadership to get this done. I'm not a career politician. I'm a policeman and a part-time mayor. But in Lake St. Louis, we cut taxes by 46% by paying debt off early, becoming a debt-free city. And we cut crime by 45%, becoming the top 10 safest city in the state of Missouri.
You say 46% cut. You've said 30% tax increase over that time. We're going to try to get to that math later. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a lot more questions, so stay with us. Welcome back to the Republican primary debate for St. Charles County Executive. Mr. Eigel, let's check the record. This month, President Trump called data centers, quote, liquid gold, and publicly attacked a governor for imposing exactly what you're asking for, a moratorium on them. Governor Kehoe, the man who beat you in the 2024 Republican primary, hosted a summit to champion the Google and Amazon data center projects in Montgomery County, the very projects you call a fleecing of taxpayers, and told Missourians that the opposition is spreading, quote, misinformation. You oppose both. So I have to ask, on data centers, are President Trump and Governor Kehoe both wrong and you alone are right?
Well, let's focus on the policy. I think that giving taxpayer dollars and putting the ratepayers on the hook for all the costs of these massive data centers is wrong. I'm opposed to that. In fact, a year and a half ago when St. Charles City was considering a big data center, I was the only one at this table that showed up with the residents of St. Charles City to oppose in person and on the record the data center that was being proposed to go in St. Charles City. My opponents have come out and belatedly said that they're also against against data centers, not because they truly believe that, but because they're trying to win an election that they suddenly think this issue is important. In fact, the draft master plan for St. Charles County just came out, and it identifies 6 specific areas in St. Charles County, from Forestell on the west all the way to the 370 Business Park on the east, that specifically and by name targets a prioritization of data centers to be built in St. Charles County. That's the plan that's put out by the county executive. I know that the county council put a 6-month moratorium on data centers, which is totally a campaign hijink that we're seeing from the county executive. I'm the only one at this table that's actually against and opposed to data centers.
Mr. Ellman, let me give you a chance to answer that. Data centers may be the largest decision this county faces in a generation. You've counseled patience. You've told me on camera, quote, when in doubt, don't. There may be wisdom in patience. There may also be the risk of a community watching its next best, brightest opportunity at growth in its future move on down the interstate somewhere else. So how do you tell the difference in real time?
Well, you study the problem, and there's a big difference between a moratorium and a ban. Mr. Eigel has talked about banning them. I don't know enough about a data center to approve one today in St. Charles County. That's a fact. I also don't think I know enough about them to ban them. So we're going to do a 6-month moratorium and study them. But I just have to respond here. Conservatives have been talking a lot in the past about putting the 10 Commandments in the classrooms. I think we need to put the 10 Commandments in the campaign offices and especially Mr. Eigel's.
Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Everything he said is either untrue, or it's an exaggeration, or it's
There are not plans for data centers right now.
No, really.
Are you saying that the draft master plan doesn't identify data centers specifically? Is that your contention?
I want people to go read that draft. First of all, it's just a draft. No.
It doesn't
data
say
centers are mentioned twice in there.
Okay, so yes.
And one of them is this, and neither one of them suggests they should or shouldn't be built.
It specifically says that data centers will be a priority and gives 6 specific areas of St. Charles County.
Our budget has increased. The amount of money we spend per person has increased by 2.7% over a 19-year period,
Not true.
That
it
is
increased by
absolutely.
almost 400%.
I'm going to interject
hold
here.
on, hold on.
And
This is important.
that is because
I'm going to interject for a minute here because I want to give Mr. Law a chance to chime in.
137 million to 606 million. You were growing government, not cutting taxes.
That is not true.
I appreciate
that is
the
not
spirit
true.
of nature. Mr. Law, we're going to come to you because I think you deserve a chance to chime in here too. On data centers, you've invoked Coldwater Creek and your own cancer story. But a county executive cannot set energy prices, cannot on their own regulate radioactive contamination. So I wonder, are you offering voters a practical, honest policy about your position? Or are you offering them a powerful personal story where a concrete policy should be?
First, if you just look, that's career politicians trying not to be irrelevant anymore. They're scared that they're going to lose their job in politics, and that's why they scream and they shout. What we need is common sense leadership, bold leadership. I said for data centers, they need to pay for their own power. We can't give corporate bailouts to Google and to Meta, and we got to make sure our environment is pristine. I'm not saying ban them forever, and I'm not scared of data centers, but if they don't meet those three requirements, we don't need to have them. They can do it, and we should make them do it.
We've got a lot more to get to. We're going to step aside for a quick minute. The candidates get a breather. You get a commercial. Back in a minute. Welcome back to the Republican primary debate for St. Charles County Executive. 2 minutes off, and all three candidates still want the same job, so let's get right back to work. Mr. Ellman, let's set the data centers aside for a moment and talk about the pipes. Every subdivision, every employer, every new resident needs water, needs sewer, needs road capacity, and none of that appears by accident. After 19 years on the job, is this county's basic infrastructure ready for the next 100,000 people to move in? Yes or no? If yes, show me where the investment is, and if no, whose job was that for the last 2 decades?
Well, first of all, the county government is not involved in sewer and water directly. We do appoint the members of the Duck Creek Sanitary Sewer District, and this is something they have been looking at for the last 10 years, and 4 or 5 years ago, they decided to build a new treatment plant in the Darden Creek watershed. And because they are building that area will now be able to be developed with subdivisions as opposed to simple 3-acre lots. And yes, the answer to your question is yes. The person responsible is people who are appointed by me and have made a responsible decision to build it. They're going to, the people who use it are going to be paying off the bonds over the next 30 years. And more important than sewers, some people can have a septic tank, but everybody has to drive on a road. And what I think people need to understand is all those roads that have been built over the last 20 years, they didn't just happen.
They happen largely with state and federal funding.
We've had to work, and I say we, because I have a great team that works with me at county government. We have had to go to East-West Gateway to get federal funds. We've had to go to the State Highway Commission to get them to fund these things. And because the state was not doing its job and not providing enough funding to build the roads that we need, county government, through the road board, contributed $191 million to fix the state roads, which were the responsibility of the state legislature and the State Highway Commission. So the answer to your question is we've got the infrastructure we need, but if we'd had to rely upon people in Jefferson City, we would not have.
The infrastructure to grow and build is there, is what you're saying. Mr. Eigel, you've spent this race so far saying no. No to apartment growth. Yep. No to employer tax incentives. Yep. No to data centers. And yet your whole pitch is that the county has stopped growing. Are those positions logically and intellectually consistent?
Yeah.
And can a NIMBY candidate be the pro-growth conservative in the race?
Well, I don't think it's NIMBY to say that we want to reduce property taxes, which has gotten completely out of control over the past 19 years. And let's talk about infrastructure. Of course, infrastructure is also a big problem in St. Charles County. Anybody that has sat in a traffic jam on Highway K during rush hour, anybody that's sat in a traffic jam on 94 or the Wentzville Strangler we have up at 70 and 40 knows that our planning, our long-term planning and vision has been a total disaster. And our infrastructure was not built to handle the massive influx of apartment complexes that we've seen over the past 10 or 15 years, where the county has stood by and done nothing to push back on the cities, nothing to develop a master plan that pushes back on all these apartment complexes. So yeah, we're actually in a really tough spot right now. I think folks are looking for someone to come up and shake a system that has been the status quo for the past 20 years, and maybe telling government no on all this stuff is exactly what we need to do to get St. Charles County to grow.
Let's talk surveillance, because I wonder if you'll tell government no here. I don't know if there's agreement on this issue. Mr. Law, you back flock cameras that read and log every passing license license plate. You say they keep predators out of parks and recover stolen cars. Mr. Eigel, you've called that a surveillance state and say government shouldn't track people's movements or their prescriptions. So a direct question to each of you. Mr. Law, name one limit that you would put on that data. Who holds it and for how long?
So I am not necessarily backing Flock. I'm backing the technology. I'm more of a Genetech type of camera guy for police.
So whoever gets the contract, but the idea.
Well, Flock does sell data. That's why I would go with Genetech 9 out of 10 times. But what was your question?
What's a limit you would put on it? How long can they hold the data? How can they use it? What's a protection that you would offer?
There are
them?
limits on it now. It's 30 days. You can go back 30 days to search license plates. It doesn't read faces. It doesn't capture faces or bodies. It captures plates. And it makes sure our community stays safe. And they've been up for years, and they've helped us solve homicides, shootings, and all kinds of different violent crimes. We're in a dangerous region, and we need to make sure we're putting the right tools on the streets to protect the citizens of St. Charles County and the entire region.
Mr. Eigel, you've built a career backing the police. Are you telling them now that they cannot have the tools they say they need to solve crimes?
We don't need to violate the personal liberties of our citizens in order to keep our citizens safe. St. Charles County.
So you wouldn't put a camera in a park to prevent child molesters from going in there?
I would not apply the police force to go into the private lives of each one of our citizens. Quite frankly, if your campaign is built on the idea that you need to go into the personal liberty of all of our citizens, I think you're going to find a lot of disagreement.
But what privacy does a person enjoy
by the
in a
way,
park?
I'm the only one at this table.
It's a license plate.
No, it's your personal liberty.
It's
and
not
I think
your
that's worth
face.
something.
It's nothing like that.
I
It's
think
a
your
license
personal
plate.
liberty means something. If you disagree, that's fine.
I'm
But
sure
the
if there was a
only
child
one-
molester that captured
Excuse
your
me.
child, you would
Excuse
want
me.
us to get that.
Excuse me. I'm the only one at this table that is opposed to flock cameras because I'm the only one at this table that's actually going to follow the proper role of government, which is to protect the rights of its citizens.
We have to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. A lot more action just ahead. Welcome back. We're tight on time. A lot of action here. We want to give these candidates a chance for a quick closing argument. Mr. Law, let's start with you. 30 seconds. I don't know if you could put it on a bumper sticker, but tell us why you should be county executive.
I'm not a career politician. I'm a career leader. As I ran for mayor in Lake St. Louis and won, we cut taxes by 46% by paying debt off early, becoming a debt-free city. We invested millions in the police department and cut crime by 45% in 4 years, become the top 10 safest city in the state of Missouri, and we cut bureaucracy and put in place the first apartment moratorium. I do what I say, and I say what I do, and I'll do it for all of St. Charles County.
Very succinct. I think he even beat 30 seconds. Mr. Eigel, to you.
Well, I'm running on the three issues that I think matter most to St. Charles County that we need some change on. One, we're going to lower the overall property tax burdens and personal property tax burdens in St. Charles County. I'm the only one promising cuts to government and reductions in personal property and property taxes at this table. Secondly, I'm going to put a stop to all these apartment complexes. Instead of letting the cities do whatever they're going to do, we're going to set a tone and a vision and a standard so that we don't overbuild St. Charles County. And then finally, I'm the only one I think we've seen is pretty clear. I'm the only one that's a serious no on these data centers and protecting the ratepayers and the taxpayers that are working and living here in St. Charles County.
Thank you,
St. Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Eigel. And Mr. Elman, to you.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to lead and not mislead. Mr. Eigel has been misleading people throughout this entire campaign. He misleads people around the entire country on making contribution to his campaign, making them think they're helping President Trump in some way. He's misleading them on the facts. I love to debate the policies, but we've been here. We can't even agree on the facts. The county has never raised taxes. We've spent 2.7% more this year per person than we did 19 years ago. And you know why? Not because we raised our taxes, but because the legislature went ahead and allowed us to tax out of state sales. So we did get additional revenue. That's the only way.
Sounds like
that other thing that he is referring to.
30 seconds.
That's right.
I think a fact check's in order. You can tell these gentlemen have a lot to say. We're going to have an overtime segment. You can go to ksdk.com, watch the whole thing. But for right now, let's do a lightning round. Raise your hand if you think Bill Eigel's personal property tax plan is legal.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go there. Mr. Elman has made the case that maybe they're not. Raise your hand if you'd sell the horse barn. We've got 1 out of 2 there. Raise your hand if you'd honor the county's partnership with ICE. All 3 there. Raise your hand if you're voting yes on Amendment 5.
Oh, is there I'm neutral.
You're a voter. None of you are voting yes on Amendment 5.
I don't understand where they're going to cut the taxes and put other taxes yet.
Interesting position. Raise your hand if you're voting yes on Amendment 4. 2 yes, 1 no. Look, we trust each of you that you intend to vote for yourself. on August 4th. That's your choice. It's also your opportunity now to participate in ranked choice voting. Point to the man in this room, other than yourself, whom you would prefer as your second best choice to lead St. Charles County. I will not run. All right. Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to have overtime. You can watch it online. That's our debate. The Republican primary is Tuesday, August 4 in St. Charles County. That primary decides this seat, so go vote. Your vote will matter. Polls open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Find your polling place and a sample ballot at sccmo.org. Until next time, we're off the record. Turns out half an hour is not quite enough time to finish the debate in the St. Charles County Republican primary for county executive. Joining us now is the incumbent, Steve Ellman, the challenger, Bill Eigel, and the other challenger, Jason Law. Good to have you back with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with this whole position about the personal property tax cut idea. Mr. Eigel, you've said that maybe we talk about state governments as the laboratories of democracy. Maybe you see county government as the laboratory of state government. You think somehow you can accomplish a personal property tax cut and rebate people? Mr. Ellman has said that it is maybe not legal or constitutional. So don't make the persuasive argument to me, the taxpayer. Make the legal argument. Can you point to the state statute that allows you to do this?
Yeah, so here's, understand what it is I'm proposing. I'm proposing going into the $606 million budget that the county council passed this year. That's the county budget. Now, and by the way, I know this came up earlier, that budget was $137 million in 2009 when Mr. Ellman came into office. So it has grown by almost a little over 400%. My plan is to go in, find the waste in that $606 million, and then make an appropriation from the county council to the county collector to give a credit to folks on their personal property tax bill. So you remember a couple years ago when the state and the federal government, for that matter, was talking about sending a rebate check to individuals. My vision for personal property taxes, when you get that personal property tax on December 1st, it's going to have your amount due, but then it's also going to have a credit from the county that we're going to apply savings to that, and the net number is going to be zero. We do that every day. And by the way, you can have a third party pay off your balance for you. It happens every day with regular property taxes when your mortgage company sends in your payment on your behalf. So this is actually pretty common ground. I don't know why anybody would say that it's not legal, you can't do it.
Mr. Ellman, I'm not going to ask you to wear a black robe and adjudicate this case before a complaint has been filed, but I will ask you to evaluate this. You have to give him credit. It is imaginative. It's creative in that. Why do you think this won't work? And can you confidently say that it will invite a horde of lawyers to come sue to block this thing?
The bank can do those things because it's a private entity and it's taking care of a private obligation by its client. Okay? The Constitution clearly says you cannot use public money for a private purpose, and that's what this would be. But let's just assume the courts agree with.
If it applies to everyone equally, why isn't it a public purpose?
Why isn't it a public purpose? Because it's your private
debt. It's everybody's.
But just because it's everybody's, the individual debt is yours, and everybody has a different debt. And the biggest debt on personal property, there's $7 million that's paid by two of our biggest employers in the county. And I'm not sure how you're going to pay that. But here's the thing. Even if it was constitutional, 80% of the revenue that we have has to be used for the purpose for which the voters gave us the authority to do it. We've got sales tax for parks. We've got one for capital gains. We've got, or not capital gain, capital development. We've got one for transportation. That's 80% of our revenue. You can take that money, you can save that money, you cannot spend that money, but you can't spend it on something else.
But you can go back to the voters
other 20%,
and ask them to redirect those.
The other 20% is 69% of that is for law enforcement. So that's the part that you actually could go into. But he wants to go ahead and change the charter so he can go in and declare a reserve. And with all on his own, without even having the consent of the council to do it, which is a separation of powers problem.
We'll get back to that in
the court will also
I
have.
appreciate the point you're making, and we're going to give Mr. Eigel a chance to respond. Mr. Law, let's get you in here. Mr. Eigel has made this a key campaign plank of his. I wonder, would you pursue the same outcome with the same intensity, the same focus that Mr. Eigel promises voters he would?
No, I don't think he can get it done in 12 months. I think he stated that before. That's probably an impossible task. What I would go is after some of those revenue streams that Steve just talked about. He admitted in our debate that the park tax is ballooned. We could probably cut that in half. That's $35 million of the $121 million of the personal property tax debt. I would redirect that through a vote of the people to personal property tax. I would do it in steps. First, it would go to the people. Then it would go to small business, and then it would go to corporate. And we would do those tax cuts over years.
So, Mr. Eigel, I want to give you a chance to respond to this idea that you'd go it alone in creating this reserve. Can you point to something in your record where you've actually created a coalition?
Sure.
And when I say coalition, I don't mean a bunch of people in a room who already agree with each other. When have you reached across the aisle to form a coalition? And if you have those skills to do that, to persuade people to think like you, why would you need to do what Mr. Ellman suggests and go it alone?
Well, I'm not going it alone. Of course, we're going to have the engagement of the county council. Of course, we're going to have the engagement with the people of St. Charles County who are going to show up on August 4th and vote on either my vision of reducing property taxes and eliminating personal property tax, or they're going to vote for Mr. Ellman's vision of continuing to grow government, which has already grown by 400%. And I, having talked to many of those St. Charles County residents, what I'm hearing from them is that when they pay their property tax bills and personal property tax bills on December 1st, the world that they're living in seems to be entirely separate from the one that Mr. Ellman's living in, where he is trying to justify all this government spending. He's trying to justify all this government growth. And by the way, this whole idea that my proposal is illegal or can't be done, I mean, gosh, was it illegal for Amazon, the Amazon warehouses, to get a bunch of taxpayer money in order to build their corporate facilities in St. Charles County? Well, of course it wasn't illegal. And of course we're going to have buy-in from the county council, because I think they're going to see the same result of the vote that we're all going to see on August 4th, and that is people in St. Charles County voting for less government, lower property taxes, less apartments, and no data centers.
Mr. Ellman, I think it is fair to say that some voters, everyday voters, who may not know the inner workings and the machination of government the way that a veteran as yourself would, some of these voters sometimes feel that bureaucrats, incumbents, people that have been in the system for a long time are experts in their limitations and amateurs in their abilities. Is there some merit to this creative idea, thinking outside the box? And if you think no to his idea, tell us one other area where you have thought outside the box, outside the traditional, conventional way of doing things to deliver for the voters of St. Charles County.
Well, first of all, if you want to impact personal property tax, you need to run for school board, or you need to run for ambulance district.
Stay in your lane.
And those are the people who decide what the personal property tax is. Next Monday, if the council agrees, and they first read it last Monday, the council is going to totally eliminate any personal property tax that the county collects. We've frozen it the last 3 years. We're going to totally eliminate it. We have not had any property tax for the last 11 years.
Convenient timing.
Now, something creative.
It's campaign season.
Pardon me?
It's campaign season. That's why
I said convenient timing. He said it's campaign season. Are there politics at play in that move? Why is it happening 8 days before the election?
Because we
Instead
have
of the past
until
20 years.
Because we can't.
I know, Steve. It's funny. It's just like the moratorium on apartments.
Give him a chance. Let's give him a chance to answer.
Will you give me a chance to
Sorry,
answer the question?
Go ahead.
The assessor and the collector have to give us certain numbers before we can act. And this is acting on what the tax will be that will be due on December 31st. As far as something creative, to build the third phase of 364 and also to get Highway N improved, I went to the mayors, and we got all the mayors to agree that we would go together to East-West Gateway, ask for one project, and in both cases we got a lot more money. But that's an example of working with the mayors to get something done.
Mr. Law, you want to chime in there?
Yeah, because I know some of the mayors, and what he did was he lied to them about this project during election season, and now he's doubling back on his word on projects in those cities.
Well, you're making a claim that we can't quite prove here
Yes,
today.
you can.
Do you want to answer that?
Well, I think I talked about bearing false witness, but I don't know that I called anybody a liar.
Let me chirp in here, because I've heard him say this the entire morning. Right now, Steve, your campaign came out with an ad this morning that's going to be all over television for the whole weekend and the next 2 weeks, accusing me of not paying my taxes. Now that I have the opportunity where you're sitting right in front of me, what taxes are you charging that I'm not paying, and how much was it? Because I'd like to know, since your campaign's putting out arguments that I haven't.
I asked for the documentation, and I can send it to you.
Well, no. Wait a minute. So you don't know.
Mr. Eigel, I'm going to ask
No,
a
I
question
do know.
if you don't mind.
But I think that's hold
do
on.
know.
This is the overtime.
Senator Eigel,
You don't know what it is.
We'll have time to litigate that.
I do know what it is.
Everybody's lying.
I'm going to ask the question.
All right,
Appreciate that. We can fact check that, look into that. Happy to do so at another time. We still have a running clock here. Mr. Law, you've said that your 46% cut is part of what you're running on. Mr. Eigel says it was a 30% increase per person. over the time you were in office. So that's not really a difference of opinion. That's a difference of a number. One of you is wrong. Your defense there was, well, it was the assessor. Okay. But the question...
Me? My defense?
Is that wrong?
No, we cut taxes by 46% by paying off bonds early, giving $1.6 million back to the people of Lake St. Louis. The prior board in Lake St. Louis wanted to extend the bonds for 20 years. I became the mayor, and we paid them off, and we cut our taxes by 46%, saving my citizens $1.6 million. We have one of the lowest tax rates in St. Charles County that has the services we provide.
So for the record, when you left office, was the total tax bill that a Lake St. Louis family paid higher or lower than when you got there? Higher or lower?
City taxes lower by 46%.
Not true.
And you say what?
If you look at the actual tax bills, and I've actually gone through the assessor's website and actually looked at actual tax bills that Lake St. Louis individuals are paying. If you look at a tax bill, a city tax bill from 2013, which is when Jason got into office as a city councilman, to when he left as mayor, the amount being paid per person that lives in Lake St. Louis actually increased by about 30%. So now,
all right, let's do this.
Now, no, hold on. I will be first to admit that Jason's actually being honest when he says that he paid off bonds early. And I actually think that's a good policy procedure. When you have the opportunity to pay off debt, you should do so. So I agree with you on that. But that being said, to try to make it sound like Lake St. Louis residents are paying 46% less on their property taxes today than they were back in 2020. There isn't a single person in Lake St. Louis that can pull their bill from 2020 and pull their bill from today and credibly say that that's the case.
I suspect each of those voters watching this program may do just that. Let's close here. I want to go back to the lightning round. Raise your hand if you would welcome a St. Charles County Democrat to vote for you in this Republican primary.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Mr. Law, okay, you waited there. I wonder, do you not have a pitch, a persuasive pitch to a Democrat about why they should support what they see in your campaign?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's because I do know how to cut taxes. I know how to keep people safe. And I do what I say, and I say what I do. And I'm an honest guy and not a career politician.
But you hesitated there. Explain that.
It was just a slow move.
You were just thinking about the question. Mr. Ellman, what is your pitch to a St. Charles County Democrat?
Well, the important thing for people to know, Democrats are one thing. What I want to see is all the Republicans show up. 2 years ago, 82,000 people in St. Charles County, voters in St. Charles County, voted for Mike Keogh for governor that did not vote in the Republican primary. If we could get those 82,000 people to, who vote Republican to show up, we would have a much better result in terms of what the people really want.
Mr. Eigel, you didn't waste a moment. You shot your hand right up. What is your pitch to a Democrat? Why should they see something positive in you, a conservative Republican?
Well, one, I'm the only one that's actually opposed to these data centers that are coming to St. Charles County. If you're out there, and by the way, certainly I'm a conservative guy. I have a Republican brand, but I think whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent in St. Charles County, you're worried about higher taxes. You're worried about all these apartments going up, and you're definitely worried about the idea of all these data centers going in. I was standing with a lot of independents and other folks when the data center was being proposed for St. Charles City. I didn't see either of my opponents coming out publicly to oppose that data center, but I was there. I was in person. So I'm willing to show up. I'm willing to oppose these things. And I think that the ideas I'm talking about are ultimately going to be successful in this race.
Last question in this overtime, and I appreciate you gentlemen for your indulgence and your patience in our overtime segment here. Mr. Law, I want to ask you directly about your AI digital ad. It pulled a few sharp elbows out in this race. It didn't paint either of these two gentlemen in a very positive light. Do you stand by it? Is that an effective way to campaign?
Listen, I am not a career politician. If it's going to come from me, it's going to come from me. What I did was I took the last debate and them shouting at each other, being career politicians, and I put it in an AI video to be creative and to get my message a point without being so strong like some of the pieces that are going out against each other. It's ridiculous. It's dirty politics.
You painted a lifelong Republican as someone asleep on the job. Mr. Ellman, I want to give you a chance to address that energy question. We've all seen this at the national stage. You can say that you have experience, you have wisdom, you have relationships over this many years. With respect, can you address the portrait that he painted of you in this AI video?
Well, I believe in the First Amendment, and I think Mr. Law has the right to say what he wants to say, but he doesn't have the right to show it coming out of my mouth.
You think that violated your name, image, and likeness rights?
Well, I actually have done some research on this, and it's an unsettled question in the courts. It's something the legislature needs to look at. Because where do you draw the line? And here's the problem I see in politics today. So many guardrails are being ignored. They're not there anymore.
Can I
mean,
reply to
there was, if he can do what he did, what's to keep him or someone else from doing something
You
even
fear it would
worse?
confuse voters?
Actually showing one of us doing something illegal or something totally unethical.
I think people might have been persuaded that was actually a video of really you,
well,
not
you
a
know,
cartoon.
You know, I've got my opponents like to light things on fire and destroy discs. I like to put fires out and rebuild things.
Quick response.
Well, what's the difference between his attack ads that go out through a third-party PAC? Because he doesn't have what it takes in leadership to stand up to the fellow candidates and say what they mean.
I think the difference is yours is cheaper.
They're not that
Can I
cheap.
say one thing about this? I saw the ad, the AI ad, and I understand technology is coming down the road. It's going to take a lot of data centers to keep supporting all those AI ads. But of course, the content of the ad I strongly disagree with. I was pleased that at least my avatar didn't have any gray hair like I do in real life.
That's
so,
cute, but I want to ask you to address the substance of it. He
Okay.
painted you as someone who promises voters things that you can't actually deliver on.
You know, my campaign has never been about my opponent's ads. I mean, look at the lies that are
But
being put
to
out
the
by
substance,
Mr.
are you over-promising things that you can't deliver?
Absolutely not. I'm running on a campaign of cutting
11
taxes.
years of promising cutting personal property tax, eliminating it for 11
just-
years.
And to that point, just a couple years ago, when I was a state senator, you asked about what things have I got over the finish line. We actually got a bill passed in Jefferson City that got to the governor's desk, Mike Parsons' desk, that would have eliminated personal property tax in St. Charles County. I'm not sure if my opponents actually even realized that, and Mike Parsons vetoed
But it didn't happen.
Okay.
It didn't happen because
I
the
said last
executive
question.
vetoed it, which is
I
what we're
lied.
talking about in St. Charles.
One more raise of the hands. Would you ban AI in political advertising? Yes or no? Raise your hand if you would. You would not. Interesting question. Okay. And I asked you to summarize in our broadcast version in 30 seconds your closing statement. I'm going to give you a chance to edit yourselves down to just 2 words. What does fit on the Jason Law bumper sticker? You have 2 words to define your campaign and what you would bring voters. 2 words, go.
Not career politician.
That's 3. What's your 2 words?
Cut taxes.
And yours?
Lead, not mislead.
Okay, we've got another 3 words, but we'll have to edit you guys down. We're going to figure that out. All right, gentlemen, thank you again for your time. If you've been watching here, you now know what you can get on streaming and on KSDK.com that you can't always get on the antenna, the airwaves. There you go. All right, vote August 4th. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.